Welcome, hackers. Linear dungeons are like guided tours with a beginning, middle, and end. Players progress from room to room with limited choices on how to tackle challenges. While this can be fun, it can also feel restrictive and predictable. Now, picture that same dungeon with secret paths, hidden entrances, and many interconnected areas. Players can choose their own paths, solve puzzles in different ways, and even bypass challenges entirely. One of the pioneers of non-linear dungeons was Janelle Jacquet. She designed Dungeons and Dragons adventures as well as level design on many video games. Originally, the concept was named for her, but at her request, the name was changed to Xandering the Dungeon. You can find more in-depth information at the Alexandrian linked below, but these are the core principles. The classic trope of one way in and one way out is fine for certain situations, but most of the time there's more than one way in and out. A place that is secure will have a main entrance, but even banks and military compounds have back doors and secret escape routes. Having multiple entrances gives strategic choices to the players. Imagine a hidden entrance through an abandoned well or a secret passage behind a bookshelf. Multiple entrances empowers players to choose their infiltration point based on the party's strengths and weaknesses. They can scout for weaknesses in the enemy's defenses or plan a daring escape route beforehand. It gives them a sense of discovery. Stumbling upon an unexpected exit during exploration can be a thrilling moment for players. It opens up the possibility of flanking enemies, finding shortcuts, or even using the exits to their advantage in negotiations or forming alliances with other dungeon inhabitants. Consider the reasons behind these multiple entrances and exits. Were they created by different factions vying for control of the dungeon? Do they serve as escape routes for the dungeon's inhabitants? Weaving a reason for these access points adds depth to your dungeon lore and history. Some examples could include a hidden network of tunnels used by smugglers, a secret river passage accessible by boat, collapsed sections that require creative problem solving to navigate, or a bluff top entrance overlooking the enemy's positions. Looping paths allow you to ditch the monotonous room corridor room structure. Looping paths create interconnected areas, offering players multiple choices on how to proceed. They can explore different branches, backtrack to uncover secrets, and strategize the best route based on their discoveries. Looping paths encourage exploration and reward players for their curiosity. They might stumble upon hidden treasure, secret rooms, or unexpected encounters tucked away in the seemingly ordinary corridors. This constant potential for discovery keeps players engaged and excited to delve deeper. You can have circular loops that bring players back to where they began. Nested loops are small loops embedded within larger ones, and even figure eight loops where two loops converge at a certain point. While loops give players multiple ways to proceed through a dungeon on a certain level, having multiple ways to progress to lower levels gives the players the same benefit as before, but on the vertical instead of the horizontal. Many dungeons have only a single level, but dungeons with multiple levels usually only have a single access point. Stairwells, ramps, elevators, or even magical portals can connect different dungeon levels in unexpected ways. This allows players to strategize vertical movement, choose between climbing for a tactical advantage or descending to discover hidden areas. You can introduce environmental challenges specific to vertical traversal, like precarious ledges, crumbling platforms, or hazards triggered by movement between levels. Multiple level connections create a sense of a vast and interconnected dungeon complex. Players might wonder what secrets lie hidden above or below them, fueling their desire to explore further. This verticality adds to the overall atmosphere and mystery of your dungeon. Discovering these alternatives allow players the opportunity to bypass traps. Some paths should bypass entire levels. A stairwell might connect all 5 levels of a dungeon, while a vertical shaft might go all the way from level 1 to level 5, skipping 2, 3, and 4. Some examples of level connections are things like hidden trapdoors, magical teleportation portals, or even waterfalls that cascade the players down multiple levels.
You might have noticed that all these principles reward players for exploration. If you want to see a class we created focused on exploration, check out the link to the Patreon in the description below.
The heart of Xandering the Dungeon lies in creating a sense of discovery. Secret and unusual paths are key to achieving this, transforming your dungeon from a linear maze into a treasure trove of hidden possibilities. Secret paths reward players for their attentiveness and exploration. Finding a hidden passage behind a bookshelf or deciphering a cryptic clue to reveal a hidden door empowers players and fuels their curiosity to delve deeper and uncover what secrets the dungeon holds. Accessing these secret paths often requires more than just brute force. Players might need to solve puzzles, decipher riddles, or use the environment creatively to unlock these hidden passages. This adds a layer of mental challenge and rewards players for thinking outside the box. Sublevels are smaller, hidden areas beneath seemingly ordinary rooms or corridors. They introduce an element of surprise, as players might stumble upon a hidden staircase or a trap door, leading to a new and unexpected environment. This vertical surprise keeps players engaged and constantly searching for hidden depths within the dungeon. Speaking of sub-levels, how about subscribing? And don't forget to turn on notifications so you know when we got more videos for you. Divided levels exist within the same layer of the dungeon, but are separated by impassable terrain or obstacles. This could be something like two different staircases from floor 3 to floor 4, but floor 4 has two separate areas that are not connected to each other. The other section can only be reached through other staircases on other floors. You could have multiple objectives on each side, forcing players to backtrack to previously cleared floors just to access the other side. Traditional dungeons funnel players through a single entrance, leading them on a linear path towards the final confrontation. Xandering the Dungeon throws a curveball with the concept of a midpoint entry. Here's how it elevates your dungeon design. A midpoint entry opens doors for strategic maneuvering. Players can choose to enter from the top, the traditional way, or use the newly discovered entrance to flank enemies, bypass puzzles they encountered earlier, or even launch a surprise attack on unsuspecting foes. This empowers players to add a layer of strategic decision-making to their dungeon crawl. The existence of a midpoint entry begs the question, why is it there? Was it built by a different faction vying for control of the dungeon? Did it serve as an escape route for the dungeon's inhabitants? Weaving a story around this midpoint entry enriches your dungeon's lore and adds depth to its history. When making the dungeon design, I would advise sketching it out roughly first. Once you have the basic design, you can add new paths and connections to create loops and level connections. You can add more entry points and exit points. It also gives you the opportunity to create new secrets for the players. Maintain thematic connections between the looping paths and different levels so it doesn't feel like just a bunch of random rooms strung together. Make sure that the encounters have a purpose within the overall dungeon design and leave clues to hidden areas and objectives so the players know to explore. Xandering the dungeon increases player engagement. It creates memorable experiences and adds strategic depth to the adventure. Experiment with these different design elements, and I guarantee a dungeon that your players will love to explore, and you will love to run. Until next time, keep on hacking the dungeon.